Good evening. You are listening to Right on Campus, the UWEC College Republican podcast. Good evening. You're listening to Right on Campus, the UWEC College Republicans podcast. As always, I'm Ryan, the vice chair of UWEC College Republicans, and I'm joined with my co-host and working partner, Tatiana, the chair of UWEC College Republicans. We have a great episode for you tonight. Tonight, I will be interviewing Tatiana on the events that took place last week. With that being said, let's get into the interview. All right, so let's get started. Can you walk us through what happened to you and our College Republicans table on Tuesday, April 1st?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Tuesday, April 1st was Election Day. We had a pretty contentious race for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And
It didn't go the way we wanted it to.
No, it did not, in more ways than one.
Right.
And I was tabling with one of our other members, and we had just set up our table like maybe 30 minutes ago. And we were in the same spot we're always in, handing out donuts, encouraging people to go vote. I mean, it's probably one of our least controversial tables, to be honest. And this man comes up to us, and you can tell when somebody comes up whether or not they're interested or they're just there to argue.
Totally.
And immediately I was like, okay, he's here to cause problems. And so my go-to for that is like, okay, just be factual, be nice, and move on. And so he came up and he goes, "What are you doing so close to the polling place?" Very aggressive. And I was like, we're allowed to be here. We are beyond the 100-foot mark. And I started to point to the bridge to tell him, that's kind of the mark. And as I'm starting to explain this, he goes, "The time for this is over," very aggressively, and just flips the entire table over.
Wow.
All of our stuff goes flying, and then he just pivots and walks away.
Did he run away?
No, he just walked away as if nothing happened.
Wow.
And and so as people may have seen, we got a short video clip at the end there of him walking away.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of spread on social media. And so, but yeah, I called the cops immediately.
Good.
University police showed up. I filed a complaint.
When you say we, who's we?
Me and Jackson.
Okay.
So
yeah,
our
another
club
member of the club,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And so and then once they showed up, they take your statement and that stuff, and then we notified administration, and they were able to identify him. This is the craziest part of it all. This was not some student.
Mm-hmm.
This was not just some outsider upset with us. This was a professor.
Yeah.
This isn't just a professor. This is the chair of the English department.
Shameful.
Jose Alvargo. I don't know how to say his last name, but
yeah,
we've been calling him Jose.
Yeah, Jose.
So, that was shocking.
A very poor decision, to say the least.
Yeah, no, and so he's been placed on administrative leave.
Okay.
Pending his investigation, which is obviously ongoing right now, and then he was given a citation for disorderly conduct.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess you're kind of alluding to it, but what I wanted to ask too, so what was the campus security or the administration's initial response? When you went into the office, what was that like?
So University Police showed up almost immediately after I called them, which was great. And then after I gave my statement and everything, I went and talked with Jake Rassi. Shout out to him. He's great at his job. I believe he's Intergovernmental Affairs Director.
Yeah.
And I went up to his office and I was like, hey, is Jake Rassi here? Kind of a mess at the time still.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
And he was just coming up for a meeting, and so he walked in and I was like, that's who I need to see. And so he took me right to his office. We sat down. I explained to him what happened, and he was really good at being receptive, listening to what happened. He immediately pulled up the live footage of that they have cameras that are live looking down at ducks and stuff on campus, and he pulled up that footage to verify that we were not within 100 feet of the polling place, and he's like, "Yep, you guys are good." And he pretty much was like, "I will continue with the paperwork administration side of things." And and then later that day I got an email from the dean as well, just checking in on everything. And then the next morning we met with him.
Oh, that's good on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the table was flipped, like, what was your initial reaction?
I feel like my fight or flight response like just kind of immediately kicked in,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like initially I was like, this did not happen. Like this, like it was not anything I expected.
Yeah. Why would someone?
Right.
Why would someone expect that their table's going to get flipped when they're on
Right.
campus, much less by a professor?
Especially like last election, this didn't happen, and last election was a much
Far more
large-
contentious.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, was not expecting that. And so I was just kind of shocked. And then we had a meeting actually with the dean and Jake Rassi, early February,
Yeah, you and I
starting
did.
the semester.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember
Just
that.
about safety in general.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of my brain ran through the bullet list of, things that they gave us to maintain our safety on campus. And immediately it was like, okay, we need to call the police. And as I'm calling the police, I told Jackson, okay, we need to take a picture of him. Any pictures we can get, better. And so
Good thinking.
that was kind of like
Yeah.
I was just kind of in this, like, this is what we need to do, like, not really emotional at the time. I actually don't think the emotions really hit me a ton until when I was walking to Jake's office.
Yeah.
Having that downtime in a sense. And then
Yeah.
when I called my dad.
The adrenaline's coming
Yeah.
down a little bit.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. And then it really was the next day where it really all hit me,
I believe it.
because then it was like I just had time to just think it over and
Mhm.
everything. But yeah, my initial reaction was pretty much just, okay, what are the next steps?
Yeah. So did you know this professor? Have you ever had any classes with him before the incident?
No, I've never even seen him. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never taken any English courses here. I did mine all in high school.
Okay.
And so I've never even like taken a class in that department. He's never interacted with our club. Like to be honest, it just shocked me that a professor who doesn't even know us would come up and take such a violent act towards us, an aggressive act. Like, I don't know. It's still mind baffling to me.
It's truly unbelievable, actually. Like, I mean, it's not out of the ordinary for a conservative college Republicans TPUSA table to face, coffees
Right.
thrown on them. Actually, our club has had a coffee thrown
Right.
on us. We've had our flags stolen.
Mhm.
Some of this stuff, typically it comes from the students.
Right. Not that that's okay either, but
Right. But quite frankly, we haven't had something like this happen
no.
in years. And when I say we had a coffee thrown on us, we had our flag stolen. The flag was stolen, I think, in 2020, and then the coffee was thrown a few years ago. And,
Yeah.
and so, like, it's been relatively quiet. But with this climate heating up, it's amazing that one, this happened, two, that it happened during a state Supreme Court election, and three, that it was a
Right.
professor, four, that it's the head of the English
Right.
department of the university who has tenure, who has everything to lose. And I'm truly baffled, and everybody who I speak to is disgusted and
Right.
just can't even believe this story when they hear it. It's
No,
truly baffling.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think even to add to that, his wife was running for school board that same day.
Wow.
And to think that, like, he could have jeopardized her own,
Right.
campaign and
Yeah.
stuff, and just obviously did not have much of a care in the world for anyone else but just his own political ideas.
Yeah. And do you know if he's made a public statement at all? Has he offered an apology?
No.
Yeah.
Nor would I expect anything from him until after
Right.
both the legal side of things is done and the administration side of things is done. But the dean sent out an email saying that he was removed as department chair,
Right.
to all the students. And so based on that, my guess is that he knows he messed up. He also stepped down from his leadership at the Pablo Center. And yeah, so, and also all his social media and everything is LinkedIn. There's nothing posted there. Obviously he's lawyered up,
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you feeling now?
It's been an overwhelming week.
I believe it.
I went home this weekend to get some rest, which definitely helped. But I mean, there's just a lot of emotions tied to it. I think, there's the event itself was startling, and the fact that it's a professor is scary.
Mm-hmm.
To think that somebody who could have taught me a class is that aggressive. Like, would he have flipped my desk over in class? Like,
Right.
you
I mean,
know?
there's no telling.
No,
at
there's
this point.
not.
Well, I mean, it's you can't be faulted for speculating.
Right, especially like I have my water bottle. I have all sorts of conservative stickers on it. Like,
Yeah.
would that have set them off?
And you're not the only, and that's the thing that I keep coming back to too, is like you're not the only student who has a conservative leaning sticker on their water
Right.
bottle or laptop when they're taking notes in class, and to think about all the students who've had him who maybe have felt influenced or pressured or haven't been able to speak their mind. I think it may be evident why.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, as much as this is hard and it's frustrating and overwhelming, you pick yourself up and you move on.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get stuck on this.
Mhm.
We're going to take this. We're going to be like, okay, yeah, this is why we're fighting.
Absolutely.
And you use it for motivation. And this isn't going to deter us from anything we're doing as a club. This isn't going to stop us from tabling in the future.
Right.
We just know now we have to take certain safety measures that really we shouldn't have to take.
Absolutely
but
not.
That's just the reality of it, but it's not going to stop us.
Right. Right. So a little bit of a broader question for you. Like, why do you think that free speech is important, for one, and then especially important in a university setting?
Yeah, I mean, without free speech, there's no new ideas, and the government can control everything. That
Or at
believe.
least the powers that
Right.
be. The
Yeah,
mob.
whether it be, yeah. And so, and I think especially at a university, this is the point in our lives where we're all developing who we are, and we're learning all the different perspectives of the world and figuring out what is true and what's not true. I mean, the whole point of a university is to learn truth.
Yeah.
And you can't learn truth unless you see all the different perspectives around you.
I mean, at minimum, broaden your understanding
Right.
of, academia, of the world, and you can't do that
Absolutely.
without conflicting opinions on certain things or
Right.
being challenged in your worldview.
No, absolutely, and so, I mean, even as much as, we obviously don't always get along with college Dems, or believe what they believe,
Right.
but they have every right to be there, and I'm glad they're there.
Certainly. Yeah.
I think it's important that colleges have both a college Dems and a college Republicans,
Right.
but yeah, so it's definitely an important thing to have on campus.
So what do you say to what would you say to students who believe that speech that they disagree with should be shut down or censored?
I would say that how do you expect us to make progress as a country?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, change
Yeah.
only happens because people point out our flaws and what's wrong.
Right.
And if you start to censor people, no one's going to point out anything that goes against the majority.
Mhm.
And that minority often becomes the push for change.
Mhm.
And I think that that's an important part of developing as a country. And so, yeah, I don't think there's ever a reason to shut down free speech or anything like that. If you disagree with something and you're like, dang, I can't believe this many people believe this, like I can't believe they're promoting this, then you don't shut it down. You say, how can I change the culture? And it's about a cultural change then. It's not about banning people from speaking or flipping tables because you disagree with them.
Yeah. So moving back to this incident, what actions would you like to see the university take beyond what they already have in response to this situation?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they've been doing a great job so far. I'd like to see them fired.
Absolutely.
There is no place for a professor like that on this campus.
Yeah.
Like, we need professors that are there to support us, that are there to help ensure safety in classrooms. And this professor is not going to do that. He's aggressive.
Yeah.
He's impulsive.
Absolutely.
He has no place in the classroom, to be frank.
No, I completely
And
agree. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'd like to see on the university side of things. And it's shocking to me that that's not the majority of the view here.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of students who have either emailed me or responded to our Instagram post or whatever saying, like, you better consider, who he is as a person. Don't fire him, or don't push for him to be fired. There's more to every story. He just made a mistake. And I'm like, if your mistake is that aggressive, then you're too impulsive to be in a classroom setting.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you got to look at it from a completely objective stance. And, I understand that people may have very strong and
Right.
deeply held political disagreements with us and what we believe, and that's your prerogative. I support you in that. But when you take a step back and look at this from an objective lens, mean, this guy was at work,
Right.
you know, I mean, and he committed a extraordinarily severe infraction. That's like you working at a bank and taking out of the
Right.
register. I mean, can
Right.
you, what would, would the excuse be, I made a mistake? Like, I mean, there's just certain things you can't do. And when you are in a position of authority on a campus as a professor, you can't attack students. I mean, that's
What a crazy idea.
a non-starter. Yeah. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm with you too. And I think there's, and we're going to go to the social media response next. But before we do that, I did want to say too that this, when you take a step back, when you look at some of the responses beyond the noise, there's a lot of people who are saying that this is, and understand that this is totally abhorrent and not acceptable. And the only outcome here really needs to be a firing. I mean, he has to be fired.
There's really, what else are they going to do? Give him a slap on the wrist and let it happen again?
If he doesn't get fired, it's condoning the action.
Right.
I mean,
no. What stops another professor from doing it? What stops students from doing it?
Nothing. I mean, it's almost a green light. If he's not fired, it's essentially, and he gets to keep his job and teach here.
Well, and then what am I supposed to do when I have a English class?
What is any conservative or any student for that matter going to do?
If he's that impulsive, you never know what's going to set him
would you
off.
raise your hand in his class and question anything that he says ever? I mean, not that he's going to attack you in the class. Maybe. I mean, who knows? You wouldn't expect to be attacked at the campus mall either.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, and that's one of those things too, which this is your interview, and it's important that we hear your truth on this. But I did want to add this too, that people before we move into the social media, because this kind of bleeds in. People are having some serious issues with us framing this as an attack. My question is, what else would we call it?
Right.
I mean, because he went out of his way to come up to the table, then to flip the table. I mean, and thank goodness it didn't hit you. I mean, because he would have a whole host of other charges, and this would be a totally different situation. But he flips this table. I mean,
right.
And I get so tired when conservatives do this because it is such a drag. But it's the truth that, and if this happened to a Christian club, a Jewish club, the Democrats, the LGBTQ
absolutely.
club, I mean, we would be calling it an attack as well, because it's an attack. You can't flip someone's table back onto them.
Well,
that's my piece on this, that I support you in thinking that he probably needs to be terminated.
No, absolutely. And just going off of that, I think to put this out there, the definition of an attack, according to Oxford Dictionary, is an aggressive action against a person or place.
Yeah, there you go. So it fits the definition just fine. So, all right. So with this situation, we initially saw a overwhelming wave of support initially. Yeah. And I saw there was tweets going out left and right from select conservative media accounts, different legislators, parents, an outflow of support from parents, which I think tells you something.
Yeah.
And then that pretty shortly after was followed by this tsunami, if you will, of hate. And I'm not going to call it negative press. I mean, there is some negative backlash where people are having legitimate critiques, of us calling it an attack or something else, or comparing it to something else, or trying to point flaws. And I do think maybe there's a place for that. But out of the 600 plus comments, I would wager to bet 60% or more are genuine hate comments, which, hey, we believe in free speech. So, and I support everyone's right to do this. But I'd like for you to take this opportunity to tell me and the listeners a little bit about, this level of hate that you personally have been receiving, and take your time with it, because I know it can be a little difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, immediately was a lot of support. Mm-hmm. And I still continue to see that on X. It's Instagram and Facebook where the hate seems to be. I think it's a difference in the culture of who's on X and who's not. Right. But yeah, there's now a ton of comments, like hundreds and hundreds on our Instagram posts that are, like you said, just downright attacks against me specifically. Yeah,
personally.
And they're like attacks on how I look, the way I sound. And
you don't have to get into it. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I don't like I can handle it,
Absolutely.
but it's still not fun to get 500 notifications a day on people just attacking me personally, and it's to the point I turned off my notifications. And and it goes beyond social media. We were walking in the hall together after our meeting with the dean, and we pass a student here, and he looked me up and down and go, "Oh my gosh, it's her."
Yeah.
And it was like in a very negative way. It was
Right.
not
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, and it's and that's that's happened a few times, and it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to be the face of it, and I'm not going to back down from it, but it's really just disappointing, and the word I keep using is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This is the point where we're at in our culture. Like, we can't even have a conversation about it. We can't agree that it's wrong to flip a table.
Yeah.
And the people that are saying, "I wish you would have done worse."
Yeah.
King Jose.
Yeah.
You know, like that type of stuff, insane.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting too. It's not to go on this spurg about social media, but this is kind of the truth that, I know a lot of liberals personally, like, and I would call a lot of, I don't have a ton of liberal friends, but, I do. Some of my best friends are liberals. And, when you go sit in a class, and your lab partner is a liberal, they would never say any of that stuff to you personally then, because they know you. And then the difference is then people who don't know you and maybe haven't had the opportunity to meet you feel compelled, or what's worse is just comfortable with their name. What's crazy to me is like, okay, I get it if you're going to go make the Anon account and throw shade, like, hey, that's part of the social media process. But there are people like postgraduates out here with their name and their face, and they're shamelessly like throwing shade, like personal attacks. And it's just amazing to me that it's like, people feel comfortable, saying some of the stuff that they have. And I get it. We're public enemy number one.
Right.
But, but I did want to say that to you, that I and the rest of the club and lots of people I've talked to are really impressed and proud of you for the way that you've handled this all.
That means a lot.
You're really bearing the cross with this, and this is one of those situations where if you haven't had public backlash, or and this is far worse than anything I've ever received in my life, and it's like with the grace that you've been able to handle this with, it's really impressive.
Thank you.
And you should be proud of yourself and know that you're fighting the good fight. And that the noise is just that. It's just noise.
Right.
And people will say whatever they want behind the screen, and who cares? We're not trying to impress them. We're not trying to, they're not going to vote for our candidate anyway.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know.
Well, and there comes a point where, like, let them make a fool out of themselves.
Yeah. Well,
like,
Yeah.
Like, there's enough sane people, I hope, that see that and are like, seriously, that's the point where you're at?
Yeah.
Like, where you can't even put together an argument.
Yeah, it's just flinging personal insults.
Right.
It's really low, actually.
No, it is. It genuinely is. And you brought up a great point earlier, too, with, like, we absolutely celebrate free speech, and they have every right to say what they want.
Yeah, even the personal nasty insults.
That is right. Yeah. As long as they're not crossing that line into a true threat.
Yeah.
Like,
which there have been some very close comments, which it's like,
and
people saying they're coming here to do it next. It's like, okay, well,
right. And
where's the fire in the crowded theater line there?
No, exactly.
Like, yeah.
And the police have been great with monitoring all that, and we've been keeping them in the loop as well. But just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah,
there's plenty of actions that you have the right to do that just aren't good to do.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. Yeah.
And so I wouldn't pride yourself
of an adult.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So, how are you going to handle going back to campus this week, going to your classes? How do you feel about the outlook here this week?
Yeah. Honestly, this week I feel like I'm ready to move on and put it behind me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we stop fighting to, make
see
sure that
end of this.
Right.
Yeah.
To be sure that termination is ultimately the result for him. But I'm not going to let this hinder my education or my emotional state any more than it has. And there comes a point where you dust off your sandals and you walk away and you walk on to the next thing. And our club has some amazing events coming up.
Yeah.
Some great opportunities, some fun discussions and debates planned, and I'm not going to let this hinder those.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, people might still be making comments, but you know what? Then they can make comments. Like, let it take an effect on them more than it takes an effect on me.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's very important to remember that this noise is just noise, and I said it once before, but yeah, I mean there's this just beautiful saying. My mom actually likes to say it a lot. I think I sent something to you with it, but it's "this too shall pass."
Yeah.
And it's like this too shall pass, and we will go on, and life will continue.
Absolutely.
And we're going to keep doing the good that we're doing and providing a space for conservative students on campus, and we're going to table, and we're not going to be scared, and we're not going to back down. And
absolutely.
You know what? And that's the right response. And so again, I'd like to say before we, do our episode's shout out and wrap up that our entire conservative movement is very proud of you. And,
thank you.
And you've done a very awesome job handling all of this. And I'm telling you, there have been a few times where I have been so offended by some of these comments that I sit there and just scourge a comment out, and I write it out, and I'm pissed, and then I look at it and I'm like, dang it, I probably just shouldn't do this, and then I delete it.
Yeah.
And then I'll read some more, and then I do it again, and then I delete it. And for you to not engage with any of this stuff, it takes a big person.
Thank you.
To stand up to what you're standing up to. And I forget which conservative news pundit likes to say this, but it's like when you're feeling the heat, you're over the target.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're doing the right thing,
No, absolutely.
And so I'm proud of you. We're all proud of you, and keep fighting this stuff because you're doing a good job.
Yeah. No,
so,
I plan to.
Yeah, and so we're doing some episode shout outs now at the end of these episodes, and today's shout out I think is extremely fitting. We only used his name once, but Jackson. He's a very dedicated member of our club, and was unfortunately with Tatiana. Well, actually, fortunately, he was with Tatiana.
Right.
You never know what else could have happened.
Right, true.
But unfortunately, he had to go through with it. And he has been indirectly facing a lot of this backlash too, and he's really taken it on the chin like a champ. And for all the work that you do for the club, Jackson, you get this week's shout out. So. All right, well, thank you for listening to Right on Campus. We post this podcast weekly where we tackle current events and life as a conservative on campus. If you'd like to learn more about UWEC College Republicans, join our meetings on Monday nights in Centennial 1704 at 7 p.m. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at UWEC College Republicans, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and favorite and share this podcast if you're listening on Spotify. Have a great night. Thank you for listening to Right on Campus. We post this podcast once a week where we talk about current events and life as a conservative on campus. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at UWEC College Republicans. Have a great night and see you next time.